There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome to another edition of the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson here as always. We've got a big football game. We'll get to that later on today. Today is kind of a unique show for us, about 9 shows in that we've had some guests in, but not for multiple segments. But I'm happy to welcome into the studio Mathew Bowyer. Mathew, good morning. How you doing, pal?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Mathew was the illegal bookmaker at the center of what could have been one of the largest gambling stories / scandals in American history, because it involved, allegedly, Shohei Ohtani, the biggest, most recognizable baseball player on the planet. And we're going to hear the entire story from soup to nuts, how it all went down. And I appreciate your candor and honesty. For full transparency, Mathew did plead guilty to some money laundering and illegal bookmaking, etc., and was sentenced to federal prison for a year and a day. And you go away to that prison when?
October 10th.
October 10th. So that's going to come up a lot quicker than you wanted to.
23 days, 6 hours, and 14 minutes.
You got it. Part of that story, I will probably go kind of jump around a little bit, is that you forced the government's hand to get you to sentencing because you'd been talking with them and telling them your story for a couple years at this point.
Right.
Why did you make the decision to throw the plea deal at the time out of the window and say to a judge or to the feds, sentence me, I want to go away?
Mainly because I felt like you know this feeling, anxiety, the unknown, just feeling like you're in a box and you can't move on with your life.
Yep, just talk right into it. Yeah, go ahead.
You can't move on with your life. You're just stuck. And being that I'm trying to obviously make money legally, take care of 5 kids, and really rebrand what I'm going to do, which is all legal now. I got to, no longer going to be in the gray area business. So to do that, I needed to move on. Just sitting here on the sidelines, not really going to be able to tell my story, sell my book, do any of these things. I just felt really trapped.
Yeah, we're going to get to the book. It's called Recalibrate. It's a bestseller already on Amazon, so people do want to hear your story, obviously, and I want to. I've kind of also lived your story.
You have.
Not from the bookie standpoint, from the gambler standpoint. Right. Betting $30,000 a hand of blackjack all night long, every night if possible, and, borrowing $30 million to gamble. So we live kind of similar parallel lives in a gambling sense. Let's go back to the start of it. You were a gambler well before you became a bookie.
Absolutely.
Gambling as a kid, a teenager, do you remember the first exposure to gambling, like from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, racetracks.
Okay.
My grandparents would take me to Los Alamitos, Santa Anita, obviously betting dollar exactas, trifectas, just getting that rush. Yeah, the taste. And then as you get older, of course, you start making more money. And then at 16, I was running a poker ring. And that pokering really led me to my first taste of a little bit of success as a young boy. And I really started taking bets as little as 16 years old because I was my house was the hub of gambling action.
Got it.
My parents were going through a divorce. My dad was an alcoholic. And when that happened, my mom was working 3 jobs. We were kind of left alone, 4 boys in a house, and a lot of things can go wrong.
A lot of trouble happens. Not necessarily gambling trouble, but 4 boys alone in a quote-unquote broken home can lead to bad things, drugs, booze, gambling, all that type of stuff. You also, for a short period of your life, we're going to go the straight and narrow. You were a stockbroker. You're in the financial sector, which essentially is gambling.
Correct.
Obviously, you're making wagers on stocks and companies and whatnot. But that also exposes you to other like-minded guys, guys in their 20s, type A guys, guys that like the fast life, and guys that are going to gamble, right?
Absolutely. When I was 21, I was one of the largest retail brokers in the world. And I worked at a company that was very similar to Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
And in that process, exactly what you said, you have 21 to 45-year-old men that are making $1 million a year.
Right.
And they like gambling, they like girls, they like drugs. I was already I had a child at 19, so I was more of a family guy, but I really enjoyed the gambling side. So I saw an opportunity. And the opportunity was really simple. If these guys are going to blow their money gambling, why not give it to me?
And you had that like epiphany at 21 or young 20s?
Well, I was betting with a bookmaker from basically call it 16 to 21, losing money myself as a total degenerate.
So you were an active gambler already?
Absolutely. And I never won, just like any
most people
sports
don't.
Better, right? And so over time, I'm like, why not be the house of this little operation of guys that I'm working with? And so I started betting with them. We would bet on everything anyway. Are soybeans going up today?
Right.
Is the sky going to be blue?
It was just a natural extension of what you guys were doing anyway. And when you're that age, money comes and goes. You don't think much about it. You had a kid, so you were maybe a little bit different in that regard. But you threw that out the window anyway.
I was
eventually.
I was making so much money, even legally.
Yeah.
I wasn't. This is all just play money. Let's have a good time. And these guys were betting at this time $5,000-$10,000 a game, which this is back in 1995.
Yeah, it's a significant amount of money anytime. Right.
So I was housing all this and then taking bets. Of course, no website then.
So let me ask you this. So obviously you're doing it like pre-internet gambling.
Correct.
There might have been some offshore stuff, but not significant back in the early 90s. I had my offshore company, Bet on Fantasy, in 1997.
Okay.
We were based out of Costa Rica. Bet on Sports was our parent company. And then when the Kyle bill came through and they told everyone, we'll give you one shot to shut it down, I was like, yes, sir, we'll shut it down.
Right.
Others didn't.
Of course.
And obviously got in a lot of trouble. So I know that world as well. What would you do as a 20-something-year-old? Because part of the illegal bookmaking is when you lose, you got to pay.
Right.
When you win, you better pay the guy that won from a bookie standpoint.
Of course.
So there had to be moments before we get to the Ohtani stuff where when you were gambling, you bet big enough where maybe the bookie couldn't pay you. Sure. And when you were the bookie, there had to be a guy here and there that won and maybe you didn't have the funds to pay. How'd you work through that?
Well, on the degenerate side, there's been many occasions where I owed a bookmaker money and couldn't pay.
We've all been there.
100%. But I was always trying to be transparent with them because I know the feeling on both ends. I think that's why I was a really good bookmaker when I was doing this. I resonated with the customer. In fact, I've been in every position.
From a gambling standpoint, right?
Correct. So communication's everything. If you owe somebody money, you communicate, you answer their calls, you tell them when you're going to have payments, really usually works out. If you don't, that's when the dark side can come in. And more so back in the day, right? Like nowadays, most bookmakers, in my opinion, don't really resort to violence. I mean,
right. And that's a TV and Hollywood type thing. It has happened, obviously, but they just want their money.
Of course.
Like the threat of violence is usually enough to get what they want. But there's a story I've heard you tell before where I think you made a wager and won a bunch of money.
Right.
And then you made a wager the next day, lost a bunch of money, and couldn't pay the bookie. And he came to your house?
Yeah, it was
Do I
wild.
have that story right?
And we're great friends to this day.
Tell that story.
Yeah, so his name is Owen Hansen, and I could say his name because he just got out of federal prison. He did 10 years, 9.5 years. He, unbeknownst to me, he got involved in cocaine and all kinds of things. But long story short, we built a relationship. The start of it was I met him, got an account with him. I think I won $88,000 the first week I bet with him.
Okay.
So he pays me right away. Very, very honorable guy. And then the next week I went to Vegas and I blew like $3 million. And I lost $114,000. So I come home and my operation at that time also won. So it's a double whammy, right? So I think my package won like $800,000. So liquidity-wise, I was in trouble because I think it was the Wynn Casino.
Sure.
And then, of course, I had to pay my players. That's first and foremost.
Right.
You don't
Or else
pay
you're
your
out of
players,
business.
you're done. In fact, I would pay my players before I fed my kids. I'm being sarcastic.
Well, if you want to keep your business,
you have to.
absolutely.
So I called up Owen, and I said, right away, and I said, listen, I owe you $114,000. I know that you just paid me, and I do understand that this is the cardinal sin of the business. I am a bookmaker. Believe me, this is not going to go well.
And he's like, dude, I gave you $100,000 7 days ago. I know you have 88 grand.
Yeah, he
Because
actually,
I gave it to you.
He actually said to me, I love it. He said to me, he says, this is not a joke. Like, he really thought I was screwing with him.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I'm being serious. I'm good for the money. I promise you'll have your money within a few weeks, which every bookmaker's heard that story and then it never comes. And I said, I assure you you'll have it. And so the conversation started going south quickly to the point where he wasn't okay with that, which I understood. So as I continued to plead with him, he got more and more aggressive. Well, my personality is if you start to get aggressive with me, especially in a threatening manner, then it's not going to go well either.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, and defend my family, defend myself, even though I'm in the wrong. I'm completely in the wrong here. So I kept pleading with him. I said, listen, just understand, I'll take care of it. And to his defense, that wasn't good enough. I understood. So I don't know if we're allowed to swear on the show, but
Do what you want.
Bottom line is, he said, listen.
I got 30 seconds before it breaks, so go ahead.
Okay. He said, listen, motherfucker, we have a problem. And I said, okay, well, let me just give you my address. Let's see what kind of problem you are, tough guy.
Oh, boy.
And that's where it led. And he said, send it over. I'll put it in my map right now. And next thing you know, he goes, I'll be there in 48 minutes. I said, holy shit, this is not going the way I thought it was.
I'm going to stop you there. We'll finish that story in just a second as I lose my my earphone there. Mathew Bowyer is here. We're going to get to all the Ohtani stuff in just 1 second. We'll finish that story as well. This is the Craig Carton Show. Don't go there.
If you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
51-0, Donnie.
Yeah.
Those numbers don't lie. Georgia, every time they rush for over 200 yards, that's dating back from 2017 against FCS and FBS opponents. They don't lose. The 2 years that they won back-to-back national championships, Year one, they rushed for over 208 times. Year two, when they beat TCU, that year they rushed for over 206 times.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
I know that.
He was a bookmaker that I did.
Hi, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Mathew Bowyer here. We will get to Tyrone at some point today, I promise. All right, so you owe the bookie money. He goes, give me your address. You're like, all right, tough guy, here's my address.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll be there in 48 minutes.
Literally.
Did he show up?
Oh, yeah, he showed up. I told my ex at the time, I said, I laced up my shoes, and I said, it looks like I'm going to get in a little dance here.
Yeah.
And she's like, here we go. I was young, and he was young, and we were both alpha males that thought we're indestructible, which is really ridiculous. But, you just really feel like you can't be touched.
Sure.
So anyway, I felt threatened, so I told him, okay, so he's driving over. I'm literally waiting on the porch. 48 minutes go by roughly. And
Love it.
He pulls in a really nice white Range Rover with the big wheels and tires. And I've never met him. Mind you, when he paid me the first week, he sent a wire transfer. So I've never seen him in person.
Got it.
And he gets out of the car. He's about 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds, tatted up from his entire body. Looks like a gangster.
Yeah.
And he gets out of the car, and I'm like, I wrestled.
I should just tell you who Owen Hansen is. His stories, if you're in this world, you know who he is. He actually had a business deal with the Mexican cartel.
Correct.
And owed them money.
Yes.
And didn't pay them for a long time.
Yeah, millions of dollars.
And they put him on ice for a couple years, right?
Correct.
And then eventually they worked out some kind of deal.
Yeah.
But he basically got kidnapped, taken to Mexico. I think it was the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah.
And lived and survived to tell the story.
And then went to prison for 21-year sentence. Got out in 10 years and never ratted on them. And
so he shows up at your house. You obviously don't get into a fight, I assume?
Yeah, so he gets out of the car, and anyone who's been in a tussle knows this feeling. I stand up, and I could tell right when he turned the corner around his car, I stood up and kind of went, not at him, but like towards him.
Yeah.
I was flexing to be ready to go. And the way he came up, he said right away, he's like, man, you got a lot of balls. And I could tell that he didn't want to scrap.
Got it.
So thank God, for me, my anxiety went down because
he wanted to see the lunatic that challenged him to a fight.
He did, and that's exactly what he said. He goes, I just got to meet someone who's got bigger balls than I do.
Got it. All right, so you're knee deep in this world. You're gambling. You're also taking bets actively. The bets get bigger. The stakes get bigger. And then, of course, what everybody wants to hear about is the connection to Shohei Ohtani.
Sure.
So you meet the interpreter, Ipe. I don't know. I hope I pronounced that right. At like a Molly's game, an underground poker game. How do you then connect with him where you know he gambles and he knows you take bets?
So he was actually on his phone placing a sports bet.
At the poker game?
At the poker game. And my friend, who was an agent for me at the time, always trying to recruit and get customers.
Sure.
He said, hey, Ipe, Matt does that. And he said, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So he goes, I can give you an account. So they exchanged numbers and got an account. And within a day or two, he was open and playing, and it was a small account, $1,000 a game, $8,000 credit line, which is very normal.
Yep.
And that escalated very quickly.
Yeah, the way they do that is a little proof relationship.
Correct.
If a guy loses $8,000 and no shows you, you can live with it.
Right.
If he pays you, you can raise the stakes because he's good for it.
Correct.
Got it.
And the stakes got raised instantly. He blew the account within, I don't know, a few days, I can't remember. And then we raised him to $40,000, and then he proceeded to blow that real quickly, and then raised him to $300,000. We weren't worried too much about payment because not only did he know that we're friendly with a bunch of players,
right, but you don't know the Ohtani connection yet.
No
okay.
chance. And so 300 was the max I was willing to give him based on he's an interpreter. I wasn't really worried
Where's
about
he getting the money from?
But so long story short, he pays right away. $300,000 wire transfer. Because I was debanked at every bank, and still am, at every bank in the country, I didn't receive the wire directly. I had to move it throughout my system. So no one's told me it was Shohei Ohtani.
So the very first wire of significance that you get from Ipe comes from Shohei Ohtani's bank account.
It does.
And when you do a wire transfer, it says the owner, whether it's an entity or a human being, it says the name on the wire transfer.
That's correct.
But you don't know that at the time.
No.
You just know, hey, you owed me money, I got my money.
Correct.
Now, when a guy's betting that off and that quickly, there's a new customer. You have the ability, because he's doing it through a site you have or through your agent.
Correct.
You know what he's betting on.
Absolutely.
Did you at any point early on, were you like, let me just see what this clown's betting on? Yeah, maybe it's college football, maybe it's NFL. Normal betting.
Right.
Did you notice early on that he was betting on what we've now all learned about? Tunisian soccer, college soccer, like crazy things to be wagering on?
The first week, no, because it was 1,000, 8,000. It's not even on my radar.
Sure.
I got 1,200 clients. They're betting 10s and 20s and 50s a game, thousands. I don't really pay attention to the smaller players unless they start winning, to be honest. If they're losing, I'm not worried about it. He lost 8,000, fine. I moved him to 40. No big deal. Didn't even really look at it. When it was 300,000, then I started paying attention because the limit went from $1,000 a game to 5 or 10. I can't remember. Now I'm watching it because, is he just losing at first and trying to get bigger limits to bring in a sharp and a professional?
Which happens, right?
Of course. So I'm looking at the action and I'm like, these are soccer games I've never seen in my life.
Yeah, I once bet on a Tijuana dog race.
Yeah,
so
I
don't even know if they were racing.
I know the feeling.
Honest.
When you're a junkie, which both of us
it's
are.
It's the action. It's not the money. It's the action.
We just want to get down. So he definitely was one of those. He's one of us.
Yep.
And he was betting on soccer countries that I couldn't find. And listen, I was a bookmaker. I could find anything. I couldn't even locate what country this was or what league it was on. Flash score, live score. I'm looking like, how do I find the score of this game to see if he won or lost? Couldn't find some of them. They're that like countries I've just never heard of.
So what point in the relationship with ePay do you then become aware that the wires that are coming in for significant amounts of money have the name Ohtani on them?
The third wire transfer.
How much was that for?
$500,000.
Okay, so you look at it and it says Shohei Ohtani, and your immediate reaction is what? Can't curse anymore.
This is great. That's my immediate reaction. Because truly, I'm a greedy guy. I love money, and I love running a business. And what better customer can you have than Shohei Ohtani? That's the way I view it.
Now, do you run around and tell all your buddies, guess who's gambling with me?
I definitely told too many people.
You had to tell people.
I had a big mouth, and which led me to this path of being here today, which I'm grateful for, ironically. But the point is, I definitely was bragging about it a little bit, which is what led Tisha Thompson to my home in January, which we will get to.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to. You're talking about the most recognizable athlete on the planet, and you just got a $500,000 wire from him.
Right.
I mean, how do you not tell somebody that?
So I received $1.3 million. At that time, I already moved his credit line to like $3 or $4 million, which he was almost maxed out again. So I'm seeing there's no way I'm worried about.
So not only is he betting a significant amount of money, he's also terrible at it.
The worst.
Like, he had to be the worst best customer, but the worst handicapper of anyone you've ever met in your life.
No question.
Right? Like, a blind squirrel gets a couple games right here and there, and even has a week where they'll win. You might win 4 or 5 games in a row.
He won $4.4 million in 1 week. That's the most he's ever won through my site. And even then, he owed me so much money, I didn't even have to pay him.
We'll get more into that in a second. Mathew Bowyer joins us. Wow, that's we're getting into the Ohtani stuff right now, and it's crazy. More of it coming up right after this. Don't touch it.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Like, because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And like, some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. Like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Mathew Bowyer here, the bookie at the center of the Shohei Ohtani case. He has been sentenced to prison, a year and a day. That prison sentence starts in a few weeks, October 10th, and you probably do maybe about 8 months of that with good time credit, as long as you don't get in any trouble.
Right.
And knock on wood you won't while you're away, because trouble's always waiting for you. We can talk about that offline if you want, but happy to share his story. So we left off, you've now met Ipe, the interpreter. He's gambling significant sums of money. He's losing every single week. And the wires that come to you come from Ohtani. Here's where the story gets messy for me.
Sure.
When the story, well, I guess the first question, before I get how it got messy, this is going on for a while. Like, how long was he a customer?
18 to 20 months.
All right, it's almost 2 years. How did the feds get hip to it? Like, how did the whole thing blow up? Was it because of the Ohtani connection that people started sniffing around, or is there a different reason you wound up on their radar?
So I was rated in October. This whole blow up, let's say, became live in March. In January, Tisha Thompson from ESPN showed up at my door and said she had sources of information that she'd like to discuss with me. So I never told the feds about Ippei Shohei. I never discussed it. When she came, she was about to put out a story or getting close to putting a story out. So my attorney...
About Ippei and Shohei.
About Shohei, her words, Shohei Ohtani betting through.
All right, so let's stop there. When the story first broke, because there are two different stories that came out.
Correct.
The first story was that it was still Ippei making most, if not all, of the bets.
Right.
But he did it while sitting on a plane, at a hotel, in a home, on a laptop, with Ohtani's complete knowledge. That was the original story that came out.
Correct.
Do you have any knowledge or information that that might have happened?
I don't have any firsthand eyes on the story or that knowledge. He had a 90-minute phone interview with Tisha Thompson, and his story did change when the Dodgers came in.
Right.
His story was initially exactly what you said, that he bet, it was all him gambling, but Shohei Ohtani was aware and actually helped him send some of the funds, right?
Right,
To help
which
him out.
makes more sense than the current story, because I don't care how much money you have. You know, if someone wires, what was the total amount of the wires?
16.2 to me, but 17 million total that was taken.
If somebody wires $17 million out of your bank account,
Right.
you're going to know about it.
Especially over
I don't accept that he doesn't know about it. I don't accept that.
especially over that length of time. If
Right.
it happened like in 2 days, maybe you didn't watch it for a week, but over 18 months, let's be honest.
Right. So and we're talking about dozens and dozens of wires.
Correct.
I assume over a nearly 2-year period, either your business manager, your agent, I know my wife, your wife,
Yep.
your wife's going to know. Someone else is going to say, wait a minute.
Yeah, where's this money?
Where you just dropped $17 million
Right.
and I don't have a second house.
Right.
What are we spending the money on?
No doubt.
Right?
No question.
So while you don't have no proof of it, do you still believe the original story that while it was Ippei betting, Ohtani had to have known about it and approved or blessed the wire?
My belief is that's exactly correct. And I still believe this day that he's never bet through my website. He's never gambled.
You do believe that?
I do believe he didn't gamble. I do believe, though, that he was aware of some format of money helping his friend, which is not a crime.
No.
But I think that he...
And by the way, it's not even a crime if he was betting. I know in California it's not legal to bet.
Right.
But the bettor never gets in trouble. The bookie's the one that gets in trouble. It's not illegal to place a bet. People get that, messed up all the time. As long as he wasn't betting on baseball.
That's correct.
Like if Shohei liked betting on Tunisian soccer,
Right.
have at it. That's not illegal.
You're correct, but the problem is, and this is why I think the Dodgers and MLB came in and changed the narrative, just my assumption, just to be clear, it is a problem if he's betting through an illegal bookmaker and
Sure.
sending money to an illegal bookmaker. And I believe that is, to me, why maybe the story got changed a little bit.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
Well, the story got changed because he's the golden goose.
Oh, he definitely
And he's the most prominent baseball player, and he's got a near $800 million contract.
Right.
And if he's involved in, whether he did it or not, if his name is involved in a gambling scandal, that's what keeps commissioners awake at night, because
Right.
you worry about the integrity of the league.
Of course.
And the thing that I played out, I know we got to take a quick break here. It's only 2 minutes, so don't go anywhere, is and here's the fear. Your best friend's in trouble financially.
Right.
He's wagering. At some point, I believe, having lived this life, you've lived it as well, I'm going to go to the guy with the money and I'm going to say, look, if you strike out once tonight, I get out of a financial jam.
Sure.
So if you're up 8-0 in the 8th inning and this at-bat doesn't mean all that much and you happen to take strike 3 looking,
Right.
and I win my bet, which gets me out of a financial jam, would you do that for me? No, I'd like to think the answer is no.
Right.
But that's the problem if Ohtani's involved at any level, even just sitting there watching him place the wager.
Totally agree. But I can confirm this fact. There was never one baseball wager put in on that account from them, period.
Really?
I can promise you that.
Which also doesn't make any sense to me. We'll take a quick break. I'll tell you why it doesn't make sense in a second. Mathew Boyer's here. He did write a book about his experiences and his life. It's called Recalibrate. You should definitely go check it out on Amazon. We'll get more of the story coming up in just a moment here on The Craig Carton Show.
credit to the Giants, who were so good in April and then since then just kind of fell apart. Now they're back in it again. I don't. I think the Mets will get in. But it is fascinating that they'll play the Marlins here the last 3 games of the season. And I know without a doubt that the Marlins are going to line up Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and top guys to try and beat the Mets.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically 2 of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
He says, you can't get in a position, Tiger, Rory, Justin Thomas, those guys are this tall. You're never gonna be as flexible as them. You got a lot more leverage and like you got a lot of more moving parts than those dudes.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I like the shadows coming in, Neyland Stadium. Show
High
me those
school,
3:30.
Joe,
Back
we
in the
played
day,
all our games on Saturdays. Maybe 1 or 2 games on a Friday night away. I always loved that. Same thing in college. Hated Friday night football games in college.
I understand why they do it prime time and we have to play. But going back to when we grew up, Keith Jackson.
Yeah.
Action.
Throw another pancake on that plate. Yeah,
That's
let's go,
it.
Keith Jackson. That's my guy here.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Hi, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Mathew Bowyer for a few more moments telling his story. He will go to federal prison in October, unfortunately, for the illegal bookmaking. And it's a much bigger, more sordid story than just the Ohtani involvement. We don't have the time here to get into all of it, but it involves casinos, allegedly laundering money and casino executives going away. So it's a much deeper story than just Ohtani's involvement. But because of Ohtani, of course, it grabs all the headlines. So Ipe had to have made thousands of wagers with you, or near thousands of wagers, over the course of 20 months, essentially 2 years. The part for me as a gambler that I find hard to believe, just full transparency, is if he's losing all the time, there's one sport and one team that he knows more about than anyone else on the planet because he's there. Right. He's in the locker room. He's in the dugout with the Angels at the time before Shohei went to the LA Dodgers. The easiest way out for me would be to trade on that inside information. And if you're that desperate, that's the only thing that's hard for me to buy. Sure. That thousands of wagers in and losing $17 million net. At no point does he make a single wager on a baseball game or specifically an Angels game.
0. Truly.
None.
Not one, I promise you. Not even any form of baseball. Never mind the Angels.
So he was disciplined enough not to break the cardinal sin of betting on a sport that he's employed by, but had no discipline at all in betting on everything and anything else.
Yeah, but I listen, I firmly believe that, as you know, because you've been down this road, I don't think when he started gambling, I think it was for fun and entertainment, and it got out of control very, very swiftly, right? Sure. And I believe that it just became a complete chase at that point. And even if let's just say he bet on 5 Angels games and won all 5 bets, it wouldn't have changed his.
It wouldn't have gotten him out of the hole.
No, they're $100,000 max wager. So, okay, he wins $500,000. Now he owes $24 million. Now it's $23.5. I don't believe he even thought of that because there really is. You're correct. If you could bet $10 million and
then he has a shot to maybe get out of the hole.
Correct. And because of that, I think that never crossed his mind. I'm just assuming, but the balance was so high, it was so out of control, and part of that's my fault. I allowed it to get out of control.
Right. Well, you assumed he's being backed by one of the wealthiest athletes that you know, a public figure.
Correct.
Right.
I never knew he was stealing the money until you could look at my text message. I say to him, it's all a cover-up. Because everything that everyone in the world assumes, that I was too, Shohei Ohtani's gambling, somehow a part of this. And he says to me, this is the weirdest part of his text message. It's all online with the feds. He says to me, technically, the word technically is just very entertaining to me because technically has a lot of connotation. So he says, technically, I screwed up. Well, obviously he screwed up, but the point is, what does technically mean?
Right.
Either he stole the money or he didn't. So that's the part that still leaves me back to what I said earlier, that I do believe there was some knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, there had to be. And the other part of this story that fascinates me is how quickly it went away.
It's the fastest case ever
Right?
in the FBI.
It went from Ohtani knew what I was doing. 24 hours later, he had no idea what I was doing. He's now helping the government file charges against me. That case got expedited very quickly, where he's already doing time.
Yep,
He got
57
like
months.
57-month sentence, and that happened like overnight, which is why skeptical people are like, the guy took one for his boss,
Right.
and when he gets out, don't be surprised if he's living a nice life in a nice home with some money in the bank. I would not be shocked if that was the case.
It very well could happen.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't know Shohei Ohtani. I've been around him, but I've never spoke to him. And I think we all see the same person. He seems to be the most amazing human being.
Seems like it, but doesn't mean he's not gambling.
True, but I think, even if Ipe stole the money, he might even set him up. Like even,
Right, just to take care of him.
Yeah, because he makes so much, and they were like best friends. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes how close they were. Everyone saw it on TV, but they were really tight.
Were the feds interested when they came to get you? I assume they had to have some level of interest in your client list.
Zero.
See, I don't get that.
Zero.
Because if you have that many customers and you're in LA, and look, I know you went to the Tahoe golf tournament, the celebrity one.
Correct.
I've seen pictures of you golfing, or at least posing with, Travis Kelce,
Barkley.
Charles Barkley, who's at least a known gambler and not actively playing. Sean Payton, Broncos coach.
Correct.
I remember there's another handicapper out there. I won't use his name. Very well-known guy who was famous for getting like 18 straight Super Bowls right. You'll know who I'm talking about. People claim a movie was made about him. I think it's made about someone else, different story. But I remember I was playing golf at Trump National in Briarcliff Manor up here in Westchester County. And I saw the guy, and I knew who he was because I built his first website.
Okay.
Because in the late 90s, I started a company called Vegas Experts, and I built every handicapper's website. You name a handicapper, I built his first website. From Big Al McMorty to Stu to you name them, I built their website.
Okay.
So I knew this guy because I built his website. And his claim to fame was like 18 straight Super Bowl wins, whatever it was, right? And I see him, and he's a caddy at Trump, Briarcliff Manor. And I go up to him, and he had a different name tag on him. And I called him by his real name. And he did a double take.
Yeah.
And I go, you don't recognize me. We never met. I was just a guy on
Right.
line that helped build a website for him. And I go, what are you doing here? Like, who are you hiding from?
Right.
Because clearly you're hiding from someone. He goes, no. He goes, this is the best place to get new clients. So he was allegedly caddying wealthy members of a Trump club.
Right.
Those guys like to gamble. They're gambling on golf. And that's where he got his new clients. So I'm wondering, these celebrities, these well-known athletes that you at least golf with, were there any other well-known people in your client list that gambled with you at some point?
Many. Truly.
And the feds had no interest in any of that?
Their interest, their eye on the prize was the KYC casino money laundering that was going on in Las Vegas in particular, really the country.
So if not for the ESPN reporter, the Ohtani story doesn't get out. You may have still been pinched by the feds in due time,
Correct.
But she was the one that found out about Ohtani.
Absolutely.
Do you have any idea how she found that information out?
My big mouth.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no question.
So you ratted yourself out.
I did because I would use it as almost a marketing ploy. As you said, I was flexing. I have an
Yeah.
ego. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So I was telling people, yeah, Shohei Ohtani's my client. Da, da, da. I thought it was so cool. To me, it was. And of course, you know this. When you're going down, people are pouncing. They're trying to get my customers. They're obviously giving out information. They're just piling on. So how it got back to her, I don't know.
But
She won't tell me.
someone said, hey, guess what? You should look into this.
Correct.
That's interesting. Did any of those celebrities ever reach out to you during, scared, since?
Yeah.
Glad you're going to be okay?
A few of them. I don't think they're too worried about me being okay.
Got it.
I mean, we
but
have
they're worried
relationships.
about their names coming out
Yeah,
for sure.
which if you notice in my book, I don't mention them for a reason.
Right.
I respect their situation.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything wrong. I mean, no one was betting on their own sport that I'm aware of ever through my website. None of that was occurring. So I want to be clear. I do have integrity for the game itself.
Got it.
And I knew that if someone bet their own sport through me, that's going to be a problem for me. I mean, they're going to really make an example of a bookmaker
Sure.
in that situation.
And the
So,
weight of the league, whatever league it might be, would also come down as heavy as possible
Yeah.
on you as well.
For sure.
Are you worried about going to prison?
I'm worried about leaving my wife and kids behind. Yeah. The word recalibrate from my book is actually, I mean, you've been through this. I think October 5th, when I was raided by 29 agents, I think it was the best day of my life.
Yeah, I've explained that too. Like it was the worst. It's the worst day.
Worst and best.
It's the worst and best because it's almost like when you are a gambler, and I haven't gambled in 7 years now, but I remember this vividly with great clarity, that when the jig is up, it is a feeling of complete relief. Like I can stop the rat race. I can stop, the late nights, the worry. Where am I getting money from? Who do I owe money to? Who owes me money?
Right.
Where am I gambling? The day I got arrested, worst day of my life, and there's not a second day that comes close to it, was also a day of like emancipation.
Right.
It was like, finally I can stop. Now, I still gambled after that.
Sure.
I want to be clear about that because I'm an addict.
Right.
But the feeling of, whew, it's over is tangible.
I'm walking into prison feeling like I'm free. I know that sounds really
I get it.
crazy, but I think you probably felt the same thing. I'm not excited about it. I'll tackle the issue in front of me, but I'm going to use this as time to reflect, write another book, obviously just continue to grow. I've grown more in the last 2 years at 48 years old to 50 than I did the first 48 years of my life.
Yeah, there's also, I would ask, I just met your beautiful wife before we started here. I would think you guys had to have some issues in the relationship because while you're physically there, you weren't present for your kids, for her, because your sole focus is gambling and money and how to get it, who owes me and all that.
Right.
I would think that this experience in a weird way has probably made you a better dad, a better husband, a better guy.
No question. And I'm so grateful for that because you are correct. I was making so much money. I would always just push people away and say, what's the problem? You don't enjoy the shag carpet in my Rolls Royce. You don't enjoy the private jets. It's very easy to shut people up that are questioning you when you're providing this amazing material life.
Sure.
But it's empty.
We got to take a break. I can keep you for one more little mini segment, but can you live a normal life without all the trappings of success? We'll get an answer to that. And then Tyrone's got some thoughts on the game tonight. Bills, Dolphins, lots cooking here. Stay with us. It's the Craig Carton Show.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. I was just asking Matthew going into the break there. This is Mathew Bowyer, by the way. You don't want to be known as the bookmaker. Right now you are. Yeah. You will change that narrative. I'm sure of it. Once you get out of prison and start doing whatever your second life is going to be post-prison. And I do believe that in my heart. And I'm doing it myself. And if I can do it, there's no doubt you can do it because you're competitive, type A, and want to be successful. But you also live the life of luxury.
Yeah.
Beautiful cars, homes, vacations, jets, all the stuff that comes along with that level of money.
Right.
Can you live a life with a small little white picket fence and a split level home and that type of thing, or are you not capable of living that life?
I mean, listen, I'm capable of anything, but I'm going to choose to be at a
successful
higher level.
again.
Yeah. I definitely have a different outlook on it.
Sure.
I mean, I appreciate money more than I ever have. I lost all respect for money.
Yeah.
I think you probably did.
100%. Because the money, it's hard to explain to people who don't have the problem, as I do and you do. Like, I won $3 million in a weekend in the Bahamas and didn't celebrate it, didn't buy anything crazy, didn't tell anybody. Not a single person on the planet knew. A week later, I lost $600,000 at Borgata in New Jersey. Didn't tell anybody. Sure. It got to a point with me where the amounts of money, as stupid as they were, and I want to be clear, they were stupid, became irrelevant. I've told this story a few times. I live in New York City. I worked in the morning. I was at my radio station at 4 o'clock in the morning. The Poconos is about an hour and a half drive from Tribeca, downtown New York. I had a driver, a sprinter, all the nonsense. I had him pick me up at midnight. We drove to the Poconos, and I'll show you the proof of it. I played blackjack for 7 minutes. I won $325,000, got in the sprinter, drove back to New York City, and did a 4-hour radio show, and nobody had any idea. And the money didn't mean anything.
Correct.
But I had 7 minutes.
Right.
I'll show you the sheet.
Sure.
I drove 3 hours at midnight and back to wager for 7 minutes.
But you got your dopamine rush.
I felt great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly
what you went for. You didn't go there for the money.
No. And it's hard for people to understand that.
Right.
What do you, when it's all said and done,
sure.
I don't think you're going to live a quiet life. I don't. So I think you're pretty honest about your answer there. But ultimately, you don't want to be known as the Ohtani bookie. That's not a tag you want for the rest of your life.
Correct.
When it's all said and done, people read your book. And if I caught up with you 5 years from now, what do you want the Mathew Bowyer story or the next chapter of that story to be?
I want to be known as a great father. I want to make an impact. I mean, like you are. If I could help somebody overcome adversity, it doesn't even have to be addiction or gambling. Of course, I'll help people with that. But there's a lot of people that have stories that are never told, and they all deal with it, and we all have dark hours. So if they can learn from all of the crap that I've gone through and the way I've handled it and the way I've ran through the fire as opposed to running from it, then great.
While you were acting as a bookmaker, you were wagering too. And I don't like to glorify the numbers because it comes across poorly. But I was honest. I made three and a quarter in 7 minutes. I was wagering up to 30 G's a hand.
Right.
Give people an idea at the height of your gambling, because you are now an acknowledged, admitted compulsive gambler,
right.
And you're in recovery now. You're not gambling right now. And first of all, let me ask, how is that going?
Difficult, especially during football. I don't even really watch football because I don't enjoy it like I used to. I'm starting. It's been
How long has it been since you wagered?
Probably a year and 3 months, roughly.
Okay, that's a lot of time.
Yeah,
congrats.
I was allowed to gamble, per se. I wasn't told I couldn't.
Right.
The first 7-8 months. And then once I got told I couldn't gamble, that was my, okay, I'm done.
Really? So at first you were allowed to go to casinos and gamble, no problem?
I was
and
still
at some
going
point the feds or a judge said, you're also now
ordered to
not gamble.
Gamblers Anonymous and all
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mental health therapy, I was required, all this stuff. Because when they, when they ask on the pre-sentencing report, what is the most you've ever bet in a sitting or lost?
Tell people.
And I bet $4.6 million on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in 2023.
So you won that bet.
I did. I got lucky, as you know. And I explained this to people.
Was that the holding call on Bradbury?
That was the holding call on Bradbury.
That's the holding call.
Come on.
Yeah.
But at least you made your money. Man, I'm dying over here.
That's a $4 million holding call, by the way.
$9.2 million. You know, because it's a swing, right?
That's right. Because if he loses, he's down 4.5.
No,
he wins the 4.3. That's it's a $9 million holding call.
I feel like, are you the one that paid the ref? Were you the one at halftime to pay the call to the ref?
But I would have.
Damn right you would have.
I would have.
All right, so that was the biggest single bet you ever had and win,
Correct.
Obviously, right?
By far. I mean, I think $2 million wager was on the fortune on my big bets. On the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, they beat the Chiefs. I bet $2 million on that bet.
On Tampa.
On Tampa. So those are my two big wins. I can tell you know this. There's millions of losers.
Yeah.
But big bets wise, I've been pretty fortunate.
You remember more of your losses than you do wins, but a win of that level, because
Correct.
it's so significant,
Yes.
you'll never forget it. And I always tell people this. Like I said, I'm 7 years in recovery. When people ask about, do I think negatively towards gambling, I don't.
Me either.
Like, I can't do it responsibly, so I don't.
Right.
But if I had some of the finest, most memorable moments of my lifetime that sadly centered around gambling. Gambling provided me an opportunity to do certain things for my family.
Right.
That I'm embarrassed that I needed gambling to do it, to be fair. But it wasn't all bad. You know, there's, I think, an image where people say, oh, you know, every aspect of your gambling life was miserable. It wasn't. You know, I had some great memories. Now, it cost me everything.
Right.
And I would suggest, like, to my kids, to your kids, don't ever gamble.
Right.
That way you have no chance of going down this bad road.
Sure.
But it was not all negative.
No, I've had the best moments of my life. You know, I had a private concert with Andrea Bocelli with 18 of my family members, my mom and my wife, etc.
Well, that's
Starting on people,
that's just
yeah.
obnoxious.
Starting on people.
Yeah, I mean,
You paid Andrea Bocelli to come to your house and sing
Well, no.
in your backyard for your mom?
well, Craig, you know this. I didn't. The casino did.
Yeah. No, I got you.
So we flew on a jet to the Dominican Republic, and
Yeah.
they rented out a private venue, and I have pictures of it. It's on my website.
Yeah,
Me
I
and
would put it on
Bocelli,
mine too.
you know? And so these moments are, you know, listen, you and I both could have did things massively successfully legally.
Yep.
But I chose an illegal route, and you know, I'll own it, and I'll move forward, and I'll do it again legal. I really plan on making more money in the next 10 years than I did the first 15.
Well, I think you'll have a chance to. I think if you just keep everything straight and narrow and never waver on that, then I'm sure your wife's going to make sure you do, and your family will as well, if you want to stay married.
Yes.
Which I can respect 100%, because we put our families through a lot of crap.
Absolutely.
And they are unaware of all of it.
Yes.
And they are the first victims in any of this type of stuff. Tell me real quick, I got 30 seconds, about Recalibrate.
So my book is my life story from being born to this minute right here.
Yeah.
And actually, the main thing about my book is I really talk about highs and lows. I don't glorify my life. I do about the things we're discussing, but I talk about the dark moments where I can't pay people and what it feels like to be sitting there and just, you know, complete disarray and not know what to do.
Yeah.
Because gamblers, you know, they resonate with that. So I don't just like glorify all the great moments. I talk about the dark moments, and I hope people learn from them.
Appreciate you coming in. Good luck to you. We'll talk more before you go away. That's Mathew Bowyer. You can get the book Recalibrate. We'll get into a little Tyrone coming in, some football right after this.
Credit to the Giants, who were so good in April, and then since then just kind of fell apart. Now they're back in it again. I think the Mets will get in, but it is fascinating that they'll play the Marlins here the last 3 games of the season, and I know without a doubt that the Marlins are going to line up Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and top guys to try and beat the Mets.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, you know, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically 2 of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
He says, you can't get in a position, Tiger, Rory, Justin Thomas, those guys are this tall. You're never gonna be as flexible as them. You got a lot more leverage and like you got a lot of more moving parts in those dudes.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I like the shadows coming in, Neyland Stadium. Show
High
me those
school,
3:30.
Joe,
Back
we
in the
played
day,
all our games on Saturdays. Maybe one or 2 games on a Friday night away. I always loved that. Same thing in college. Hated Friday night football games in college.
I understand why they do it prime time and we have to play. But going back to when we grew up, Keith Jackson.
Yeah.
Action.
Throw another pancake on that plate. Yeah,
That's
let's go,
it.
Keith Jackson. That's my guy here.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. What did you think, Tyrone? You have dabbled in wagering.
Yeah.
You obviously know about Bowyer. Before you get to tonight's game, just give me your quick take.
Yeah, it was fascinating. 2 things were really fascinating. One, just the volume of bets.
Yep.
Because you don't know from the outside, if you're not, gambling like that, of the volume that he was taking on, the 100,000 and this and that. That's just the sheer mass of bets was fascinating to me.
I wouldn't be insecure about your wagering because he was wagering more.
No. What I'm talking about is the booking, how much
how much
he
he was taking in? Well, you 1,200 clients, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't know how you keep track of all of it.
That's what I mean. Like, that part was a bit overwhelming. And then also his answer, when you asked about the humility and the white picket fence afterwards, he dismissed that quick. That jumped out right away. No, I'm not judging, but he was not having any of that. Like, split level? Nah, split what? Like, he did not want any parts of that. And but I think it speaks to how he's wired. It's not a judgment. It's just how he's wired.
I agree.
Currently. And also, I do honestly believe, and this is no disrespect at all, if it's 8 months from now, 1 year, 1 day, whatever it is, I would imagine with some soul searching, maybe he feels the exact same way. I think he would answer it in a different way after he goes
maybe,
through
look,
it. Only because you went through it.
Prison is the all-time great humbler.
That's what I mean.
So you go in thinking your poop doesn't stink. I've met a lot of guys that do. If you go in thinking that, you're going to have a very tough time there.
Yeah.
Because the majority of people that he's going to be housed with are going to be drug dealers. It's going to be street-level drug dealers who got caught up or got whatever it might be, and are just doing out their time, and they don't mind being there. They get 3 hots in a cot, and they're there with a lot of their buddies.
Right.
And you're the outlier. You're the anomaly, being a white-collar criminal, at least in my experience in federal prison. And if you go in there and you're anything other than contrite, and you think like you're better than everyone else, they will teach you very quickly that you're not. Wow. So you just got to go in there and keep your mouth shut, mind your business. I read over 50 books while I was there. Sit in your cot and read, go for walks if you can, and stay out of everybody else's way. You are not there to make friends.
And another thing, I want to thank you for doing this today, because I know for a fact, because I'm getting people online answering me, you're helping people. Because I don't think, I think even if it makes people pause a little bit, you're helping them, because some of us can get, I've been able to gamble and I don't have to gamble.
Yeah.
You at one point had to gamble, and there's a lot of people wired that way just like him, and I think you're helping people doing it.
The best example I can give you on how out of control gambling addiction can be is, and again, I don't like talking about the numbers. I will just to make this point. So the Hollywood Hard Rock was the place, to this date, I'm the most successful at. I'm not going to tell you how much I'm up lifetime to date. It's irrelevant. But I went in there once with $500,000. And I was there just for a weekend. And in the first 8 hours, I was up $1.5 million.
Wow.
Right? I had a run of all runs. So I'm sitting on $2 million now at my disposal. I'm only there for another 24 hours. So the smart person would do what? Get out.
Walk away.
Go eat dinner. Go fishing. Rent a yacht. Whatever you want to do. Right? Just, you're good.
Fly home
like
private.
You go up plus 1.5.
Yeah, fly home private.
That's great.
No commercial.
Well, they always flew you private. So that was an add-on. But yes. I walked out 24 hours later with nothing.
Wow.
Zero.
Wow.
Not a dollar in my pocket. Couldn't tip the driver. Nothing. So 8 hours, up $1.5 million. 24 hours later, down $2 million, and walked out of the casino with nothing. And that's the best example of what gambling addiction looks like.
Absolutely.
Now, for me, it was millions of dollars, but for you, it could be hundreds of dollars. And that's all you got. You have no access to any other money. I just had access to more money. If I only had access to $500, I would have walked out with nothing. I would have lost the $500. Real quick, big game tonight. Bills, Dolphins. Obviously, Dolphins 0-2. The blood's in the water now with Mike McDaniel. Probably some blood in the water now with 2 as well. Bills looking to go 3-0. They own the Dolphins in the Josh Allen era. Is this the final straw in the Tua Mike McDaniel era down in South Beach?
I think it is. And the tough part is, in the NFL, I don't love games with huge spreads like this.
What's the spread?
It's 11.5.
Whoa.
So this is a situation where if some people set aside, you probably shouldn't bet more than 4 games a week. And if we're being honest, you probably shouldn't. I know people do. And I think you should put maybe only 10% of your bankroll on this particular game because of the size of the line. But if you're going to bet it, the only side to me is Buffalo.
I mean, they own Miami.
Thursday
Miami, they were much more competitive last week. Had a chance to win last week's game. But it's not a good football team. It's not a well-coached football team.
Traveling on a short week.
I think it could be a little letdown for the Bills. It is a divisional game.
Could be.
Weather's not a factor. It's in Buffalo, but no big deal for Miami. I I would tell you not to bet it.
To me, this is a stay away.
I'm not in control of your money.
No, I think this is a stay away. But if you're going to bet it, to me, the only side you take is Buffalo. But to me, it's a stay away.
I'm just happy, and we do this every year. I can't believe it's week 3 already. But here we are in week 3. So much more to get to. We'll get to all of it tomorrow. We got a huge weekend of college football and NFL football. We're getting ready for baseball as well. I appreciate you indulging me in that interview and hearing what Mathew Bowyer had to say. Check out his book, Recalibrate. And we'll do this whole thing again tomorrow morning at 11 live right here from New York City. Thank you again for watching the Craig Carton Show. Check it out on SportsGrid every morning. And at 1 o'clock today, you'll hear the whole show on YouTube. Have a great day.